I was asked to give a short speech at a service for those who have been bereaved by suicide. And I thought I did rubbish. I thought I did really badly. And then a lot of people came up to me afterwards and said that really helped them. So, I thought I'd share it in case it might be able to help anyone else that's been bereaved by suicide, but also that's experienced suicidal thoughts and feelings. So it's a short speech, but I'm gonna read it out. I was about 16 years old when I first began to contemplate suicide. At the age of 10, I started hearing a voice in my head. I believed it was the voice of an angel, and I liked the voice being there. It was something of a companion. When I turned 16 though, the voice changed from an angel to a devil and began to torment me. It challenged me to do certain things or else I would be punished. Suddenly, living inside my head became rapidly unbearable. Added to this was my increasingly low moods. They would come without warning and completely take over me. Sometimes I would feel overcome with so much emotion I had no choice but to cry. Often there seemed to be no reason, no trigger for it, and always I suffered secretly, in silence. Simply put, I was incredibly embarrassed and ashamed. You shouldn't be feeling like this, I kept telling myself. As a result, everything was kept firmly locked inside. It's amazing how much pain and suffering we can endure, and, more than that, how much of it we can mask. Not only was I hiding my mental turmoil, but I'd begun to struggle with my sexuality too. Coming from a Jewish community, where I was told that to be gay was a sin, I began to consider a way of escaping this existence that I was living. The first time I actually considered suicide, I was sitting in the back of my parents' car, age 16, driving to a family function. We passed by a cemetery. I want to be in there, I said to myself. There was a sense of peace I saw in that graveyard that seemed so far removed from me as I sat in that car, full of hatred and anger and despair for myself. But the worst was to come. During the next 4 years, I passed my GCSEs, A-levels, driving tests, and I got a place at a prestigious drama school. Acting, and particularly that transformation into other characters, provided a chance for me to escape from myself. Without it, I think I would have broken down much earlier. But all the achievements that my family and friends saw on the outside was an absolute contrast to what was happening internally. I turned to self-harm, alcohol, and tried various antidepressants. By the first term of my third year though, I could no longer contain the burden of everything that I was carrying, and I broke down. Going out onto a dual carriageway near my student house and walking down the central reservation of it, I was psychotic, out of control and suicidal. I was eventually taken to A&E, and sometime after that I was admitted to a psychiatric hospital where I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a combination of schizophrenia and depression. I spent a month in that hospital before I decided to run away and end my life. There were lots of factors in my decision to do this. My sexuality, stigma, shame and embarrassment, again. But the prevailing factor was my belief that I would never ever recover. These are the words of a poem I wrote to describe how this felt. I wish that I could tell you. I'm longing to explain. Because the day-to-day would be easier if I could share a little of this pain. It's not the words I'm looking for. I have them all right here. It's the courage I need to say them that is buried deep within my fear. The fear of what you'll think, the fear of what might change, or maybe it's the fear in me that I'll never find what I've lost again. And that was exactly it. I convinced myself that I was broken, unrepairable, and past the point of no return. So on the 14th of January 2008, just before my 21st birthday. I ran away from the hospital and I came to a bridge near here to jump from the edge of it. But while on the edge, I met a young man who tried to talk me down. Through his empathy, kindness, patience, and compassion, and through his constant repetition of the simple statement, "Mate, I really believe you'll get better." He changed my mind about what I was about to do. Someone, a stranger, believed so strongly in me at a point when I had absolutely no faith left in myself. And that was the moment I found hope and the point that my recovery started. The last 8 years have been tough at times. I've relapsed, been hospitalised, and I've become suicidal again. But I've also been able to achieve things too. I launched a successful campaign to find the stranger on the bridge, which went viral and reunited me with the Good Samaritan, Neil. I recently launched a new mental health workshop in schools, which is going down really well. I now go into places like hospitals and prisons and businesses to share my experiences, but to encourage others to talk as well. I want to do all that I can to break the shame and the silence around mental illness, and especially around suicide. I wanted to finish off by saying, on the way up to the bridge that day, I prayed desperately for my family. The whole way there, I said, "God, I don't want them to feel guilty or responsible in any way," and I just felt that I really wanted to share that with all of you here today. And to finally end, I later added a final verse to that poem you heard earlier, and it goes, "What if it has gone, never to come back? Not all things return once apart. Well, then we'll just create a new beginning. There's no limit to the infinite times that we can start." And that was my speech. And it made me feel good that it brought some comfort to some of the people there. When you're surrounded by people, all loved ones that have been bereaved by suicide, we need to talk about suicide. Every 40 seconds, someone takes their life around the world, and there's 3,000 suicides every day. So during the course of me reading this, my maths is rubbish, I'm sorry. The point is, there's been not just one suicide, but there's been multiple suicides. And these are just, that doesn't include attempted suicides. We need to talk about suicide. Been there, and I know what it's like, but I know that you can overcome it. You can overcome those thoughts and feelings, and when you're in that place, it's so intense. It's so intense, and you just feel you can't break out of it, but you can. And I'm going to do all that I can to. But we need to talk about. We need to talk about suicide bereavement as well as suicide. There's no shame. We need to get rid of this shame and the stigma. Thank you for listening. Thank you.